Hey, welcome to the Rain and Morale podcast. So, do you ever feel like screaming out in the office, on Zoom, or outside the school gates? For the love of God, come on, really? Then, if this is you and you're looking for an honest, fun, and frank podcast on life and business, then sit back and listen to me, Rain and Morale. I'll be bringing great people on the show to talk, share, and debate their life experiences and business challenges, keeping the show unpolished, but in a fun and unique British style, with sarcasm, tenacity, maybe a few swear words or tears. This podcast keeps it real, honest, raw, and removes the bullshit in the only way I know how, through authenticity and getting shit done. Think of it less like the Housewives of New York or Towie with the lipo and drama, and more like the house lives of the real world. I hope you'll take something away to be better informed, laugh, smile, or maybe even finally getting the confidence to shout, come on, really. So enjoy. Hey, Captain Kieron Kelly, welcome back to the Rona Morel podcast. How are you doing?
Fantastic. Yourself?
Awesome. Yeah, I'm really well, thank you. And there was so much we wanted to talk about last time that as soon as we came off the call, I was like, let's just go again. So this is kind of part two of the conversation, really, and some of the things that we want to talk about, really, about just bringing action, how we can unmuddy the waters for corporates, some of your philosophies and beliefs of making that happen in a transparent and credible way, a little bit around the tech that you're hoping to use, both from a recycling point of view, but also from a empowering and improving the lives of local people in Indonesia. So welcome back to the show. Thank you so much. Listen, let's dive in first with talk to me a little bit about some of the conversations you've been having recently and the amount of recycling that you believe you can now start a significant impact on, because there's a lot of negativity around recycling.
100%. There's negativity around everything that can't be controlled, right? Unfortunately, the environmental world, they grab onto anything that they can. It's like a good, never get in the way of a good story, which is a bad story with the environmentalists. That's kind of where they are. For people to say that, to constantly push out that there's 6 or 7% of the plastic being recycled around the world, so recycling has failed, and let's forget about recycling. I mean, that's absolutely ludicrous. I mean, we have to increase the amount of plastic that is being recycled. If there's not enough being recycled, which of course there's not, I mean, we have to increase that. We have to figure out ways to actually do that. And looking at all the different new technologies that are on board, are out there right now. In South America, we just signed some of our paperwork to put in actually with a British company, Plastic Energy, put a plant in there. We get them to build a plant. We pay them for it, of course, and we
Yeah.
operate a plant there in South America, and that is, again, it's a decent project. Handles some 70 million kilos of plastic a year through
Right.
it, producing green diesel. I mean, a good solution. That green diesel can do multiple different things. You can produce an oil, and of course, that oil can go back and produce a plastic product again, right? Or it can produce a green fuel or aviation fuel or whatever. I mean, there's multiple different things to do with it. A good
Right.
practical solution. We need practical solutions. We work with some meetings there again yesterday with a company we starting to do a lot more work with, Carbatura. Carbatura is an amazing company, amazing guys. I mean, their technology is mind blowing. I see
Right.
Carbatura being a company that will rival any company on the planet, because of practical solutions. The project that we were there yesterday to sign an MOU with one of the local governments here, and that is to do a total of 5,000 tons a day, over 1.8 million tons a year, just with one plant. They're looking to put in several in here. Carbatura has 25 operational facilities, smaller ones, most of them, but all over the place at the moment. An amazing company. I mean, again, what does the likes of that do inside these communities? First of all, we eliminate the problems with plastic waste. The likes of, by us working close hand in hand with Carvatura, people always say to us, well, there's no point in collecting the plastic in the ocean. Again, another crazy environmental, claim that they make. Leave it there, right? Let's just concentrate on educating people. Well, that is complete BS, right? Everybody knows the problems of pollution is affecting them. It's forget about trying to educate people. It's kind of, in a way, it is very it's kind of racist in a way, right? You're saying these people are all ignorant, they don't understand. Of course they understand. I mean, they understand. Let's empower them. Let's not just use the hashtag to empower them. Let's do something that we can actually change the lives of these people. We get these people real money, right? We put their kids to school. We come up with real solutions, right? Let's forget about this nonsense and this that we're going to think about doing something. We're going to write another white paper, right? We write another white paper and we say, oh, the world is bad, right? It's all doomed. Put your head in the sand and it's all going to disappear. But it's not, right? It's not. We're going to have to fix the problems, come up with real solutions, practical solutions. How can we empower corporations, empower governments, and by doing that, it empowers people? Again, it's not very complicated. We look at plastic itself, and we look at track and trace, and about everything that we do, to be completely transparent. The reason for that, of course, is, and I hate saying this, I really hate saying it, but I say it all the time. The environmental world is corrupt to the core. Anyone that thinks it's not is naive, but everybody, I think, knows that. Corporations, for the most part, and I look at all of them. I look at I look at Coca-Cola, all these companies. Coca-Cola, one of the greatest companies in the world regarding the plastic they're recycling. They get hammered every day on social media. But I see what they do on the ground. I see what they do in India. I see what they do in Indonesia. I see what they do in the Philippines. It's an amazing company, Again, trying to fix some of the problems that are actually there around waste. Our governments globally, of course, their hands are caught, right? Their hands are tied behind their back. For the most part, they don't have the money to pump into initiatives to fix some of the problems. There's massive amounts of money goes into NGOs. I was asked a simple question today, right? With our application and track and trace and so on and so forth. We have the most unique platform in the world. We can track and trace, and with complete transparency, from start to finish, a kilo of plastic, show exactly where it's going, show the social impact it's actually having on the people. I mean, it's unique. We put so much work into it. And I was asked a question, and 2 or 3 NGOs were mentioned, their names. I'm not going to say their names on the call here. But they said, would you leave these NGOs join it? And I said, no. And the guy said to me, that was very fast. I said, let me explain something to you. I'm all about empowering a person in a village, right? To get that person that's living in a shack or living on the site of a landfill with his kids, in a landfill, not close to a landfill, but actually living in a landfill. I'm about getting him out of that landfill, getting him real money and changing his life. I'm not about giving money to the NGO because somebody wants to continue to live his life in Bali on a beachfront, a villa or somewhere else around the world, right? What good is that going to do for the environmental space, giving that money to that guy, compared to putting money to fix the problems? We have to fix the problems we have. We can never fix the environmental problems unless we improve the social side of the issues that's there. I live in Indonesia. I talk about Indonesia a lot because I live here. I love this country. We work in many countries, but I always speak about Indonesia because the country is very near and dear to me. I spent several years there now, and I love the place. I live in Tangerang. One of the poorer areas in Java. That's where I live, right? I don't live in Bali. I don't live in a beachfront villa in Bali. I mean, I don't. Do I live in a shack of a house? No, I don't. I live an okay life here, but I don't take a salary. I don't
Yeah.
take any travel expenses. I pay everything out of my own pocket. I try to do the right thing every day. I make a decision every morning when I get up, and before I get out of bed, I think, you know what? We're going to make a difference today. We're going to do something. We're going to make the life of somebody better today. If it's one people or 1,000 people, we're going to do that. And we have to do that. And we have to help corporations to do that. Corporations are caught in a very, very difficult position, right? You have these forces that are constantly attacking them, telling them they must do the right thing, forcing them into collaborations with the environmental world, right? With these
Yeah.
environmental entities. So they're forced into a corner. And when they make this collaboration with them, it's like walking through a minefield at that stage. And there's landmines all over the place, right? And you have
Yeah.
somebody that's blindfolded bring you through that landfill. I mean, you're screwed. I mean, like it's you have a serious problem. And the corporation gets caught, of course, because they didn't know what they were getting into. For the most
Yeah.
part, they took on board what this per individual was telling them. And of course, that wasn't the case. And then all of a sudden, everyone points at the corporation and said, greenwashing, right? He's
Yeah.
greenwashing. He didn't know, right? The corporation didn't know. So we have to change, right? We have to have transparency in everything that happens. If you can't prove that you actually did what you claim to do regarding
Yeah.
the likes of plastic and pollution, if you can't prove that, you didn't do it. There's no point in saying you do. You have to be able to prove it. And prove it doesn't mean that Kieron Kelly told you he did it. That's not proving
Yeah.
it. You have to be able to prove it. We collect with our application. We independently audit stuff. We do a physical audit, not a virtual audit, not this, again, more greenwashing. A physical audit. We store all the data on a blockchain. Everything we do is easy to see. Again, it's
Yeah.
transparent. And by keeping that in there, you don't have any issues.
Well, listen, I've got a ton of questions already. Thank you for that. Let's just go back a little bit. And you mentioned Carbatura. Have I pronounced that right? Um,
Yeah, yeah.
you said that they were going to be groundbreaking, and you know, a real game changer. Help me understand, and the listeners, what do you mean by that? So when it comes to someone who can they recycle anything, everything? What's the byproduct? What's the connection between them and the social enterprise that you're running with those guys who are literally living in some of those landfill sites? What's the impact to the community?
The likes of the social impact, Carbatura, of course, for us is great. I mean, one way we look at some of the problem plastic that we turn into aggregates and stuff. It is always expensive for us to do that. You know, that eliminates some of that cost by us pushing that tonnage of plastic into them. Carbatura, we look at plastic, of course, we look at it in a very different way. We do think that it is quite possible to do 3 to 4 million tons of plastic from rivers and ocean on a yearly basis. So we look at the harvesting of plastic on a completely different level. We have technologies and patent technology ourselves for collecting plastic. We're very, very good at that. Nobody comes close. The whole environmental work combined wouldn't collect. We could collect more plastic in a few days than what they'll do in a year. We're very good at that.
Right.
Regarding Carbatura, their technology was so amazing about Carbatura. When we say we get our plastics or different mixed plastics, right? We get our
Yeah.
plastics for recycling. We have to separate our plastics, right? We separate all our plastics. And the separation of plastic, of course, it's labor intensive, which for me, that's good because we create more jobs, right? And for me, it's about creating jobs. So the difference with Carbatura is Carbatura can pretty much put a conveyor belt into a landfill and pull
Right.
everything from a landfill, everything from the soil to the tires, to the cars, to the bottles, to the tins, to everything, and feed everything into these reactors. Zero emissions, absolutely zero emissions. It's their technology is amazing. I mean, I can't speak highly enough about what they actually have. It's a great solution. There's with what Carbatura have and the way that they're actually scaling up. I believe they have something like 6.9 billion spent on facilities right now. They'll probably spend 20, 30 times that over the next year and a half. I mean, so they're putting these plants all over the world. We're helping them in locations we are to get these plants up and running. Carbatura, of course, for us, if we're in the area collecting ourselves, a lot of the problem stuff that we're finding it harder to recycle. We recycle everything, but instead of turning to aggregate, we can push it down to them. It's just everything is a numbers game, right? Everything is a numbers game. The city to the east of here, that city I was speaking about, is called Bogor. In Bogor, by Carbatura, get up and running. That eliminates all the waste to the landfill straight away. God, 100% of it. They produce in the main landfill there, I think it's around 3,000 tons a day. So there's 3,000 tons a day straight to Carbatura. We're looking with the government there, getting 2,000 tons more. Again, from a couple of different locations around another landfill, and also pulling from the existing landfills, taking what they have from the existing landfills and running it all through it. So the government themselves, they get the land back, they can use the land again for a park or build houses or whatever, just reclaim the land on top of that. So their technology is unique. They produce multiple different products from it. The list is a mile long. They can from different green fuels, of course, to carbon black, to they're in talks with Tesla for Tesla's batteries for their cars. Some of the carbon blacks that they take out of that, they can be used inside the batteries. They have a list of corporations a mile long that works with them. It's Carbatura. I see Carbatura as being a one-stop solution to the problems that we actually face. Our plants are expensive, no doubt about that. But a solution, a real solution. The beauty of it, of course, is there's zero emissions, zero harm to the environment, create lots of jobs, and again, no doubt about it, practical solution.
What happens then if, say, Carbatura becomes, this global phenomenon, right? And what is the impact, though, of then suddenly being able to take all rubbish, so therefore you don't need as many jobs, and then people just, how do we deal with that from an upstream point of view, with people who just go, oh great, there's a Carbatura plant in every country around the world, there's millions of them all over the place, we can just keep pumping out this plastic and waste. How do we deal with that side of it? Because we can't keep consuming, do you know what I mean, and dumping. We've got to build, surely, infrastructures, better infrastructure, certainly in places like Indonesia, for people to manage their waste.
Well, yes and no, right? If we look at what the likes of Carbatura put together, right? Low impact, handling of waste. Reducing the global carbon footprint by doing it. If we look at, let's be real, let's be honest about one thing, right? The carbon footprint of this compared to the carbon footprint of this piece of paper, right? So you have a piece of paper and a piece of plastic. Which one has the lower carbon footprint? It's actually the piece of plastic, right?
Yeah.
So how can we fix the problems? Of course, like we need to figure out, how can we recycle 100% of that? How can we create jobs at the same time and use that? Like we speak about renewables, we speak about different renewable projects, and how can we actually get to a position that we can actually make a real tangible difference? And surely, if we can have zero waste to landfill without trying to completely reinventing stuff. On top of that, get the problems that we have all over the world, the landfills, which is billions of tons probably at this stage of between everything that's inside these landfills, even all the leaching and everything else that's there. You can pull everything and recycle every single thing. You're creating jobs. You're stopping adding to the problem. You're stopping the again, the methane and everything else, like, that's leaking into the atmosphere on a daily basis. Surely that's the solution. Let's not try and reinvent the solution, right? Let's not try and pull it apart. Like, if this is a real solution, which, I mean, I've been amazed. Carbatura, again, when looking at it, reading at it, and seeing what these guys do, they blow me away. I hope the likes of Carbatura can finish the likes of us from collecting plastic. The sooner the better. The sooner that I can stop going into the ocean to get plastic, the sooner that happens, the better. I'm not looking for something to keep doing this for the next 20 or 30 years. I want this to end. It's not going to happen it's going to take a long time to clean up the mess that we have in our ocean. But the sooner we can do that, the better. We definitely have to stop adding to it. And I just see that as a great solution. I see Carbatura as being a massive solution.
And I think that's a really great way of looking at it as well, is that even if we turn the tap off tomorrow, there's so much in existence that needs to be stripped. And you mentioned carbon, but actually the greater danger for us is the microplastics in our blood, in our food, the poisons, the toxins, the methane, all of these things. And as you will know, because you're right in the thick of it, it doesn't, it's not impacting me sat here in a village in England. I see rubbish, but I'm not, it's impacting those that really have done nothing to create it as well. So on the topic of, you mentioned something about green fuel, and again, just to be kind of more intuitive about it and kind of inquisitive, I think, what do you mean when you say green fuel? I know the first aeroplane took off yesterday with Richard Branson on it, and a ton of people all clapping and cheering and going, "Oh my God, we've made it off the ground," which felt quite like a momentous moment. So what do you mean by it when you say green fuel? Where can that be used?
Well, if you look at ourselves with the project, say our project there in Colombia, we have probably 15 or 20 different projects going ahead through the Caribbean and through Central and South America there over the next 5 or 6 months. And of course, big tonnage, again, like massive tonnage that'll be coming in. We have to come up with a solution with it. What are we going to do with it? And of course, different fuels, of course, different ways of using that as a fuel is important. I mean, it's definitely important. We're looking at a couple of projects there in the Caribbean with a French company that we just signed an agreement with, and that is again a different technology they have, but it's on a small level, right? It's only 140 tons of plastic a day for a project there in the Dominican Republic. So a small project, but nevertheless, like, it's a project. 140 tons is 140 tons. Pretty easy to achieve. And of course, like, it is again coming up with a bit of a solution there. What does that mean for an area like the Dominican Republic? Islands are a problem. The biggest reason I came to Indonesia, I spent my whole life on the ocean, and I was fascinated about Indonesia because I'd read about it for years. My ideal retirement, when I was going around raping our ocean of seafood, which I did my whole life. That's the reason I became an environmentalist. Again, by the way, is because people like me had no business being on the ocean. That's the reason I became an environmentalist. But I'm a practical environmentalist. I'm not one of these radical environmentalists. I don't believe in that. So when I looked at Indonesia and look at the Caribbean, right? You look at islands. Islands was something that fascinated me. Like I said, my idea of retirement was sailing around the world in a nice little sailboat and pretending the world didn't exist, right? Till the day I died. Mm-hmm. That was my dream. So I learned a lot, like, there for years on the ship at the night time, reading books about what I was going to do when I get off these boats. And the islands I see even here, to get energy to the islands is a problem. All the islands for the most part, they're off the grid, right? Lots of them, solar can't produce enough for them, or it might be too expensive, whatever it is, or it might work. But even if it does work, what are you going to do with the trash, right? You're still left with the trash problem. So with a green energy, green fuels can be multiple different things. Looking at different ways to energy for some of these remote islands, I think is important. I think we have no choice but to do it. I'm not a big fan of waste to energy on a, say, well-developed country, because I think there's better solutions there for it. But on remote islands, I think you have no choice, right? You have to look at what is, again, back to the practical solution for that particular island. And it goes back to that. So the likes of the island itself, like, use what they have, turn that into a fuel, and of course, go from there. Whether we like to, I see people pushing, and again, you see it in Europe, that we're going to get rid of diesel, and we're going to do all these things over the next few years, right? Everyone is going to be driving an EV, and this is going to happen there tomorrow. Well, I hate to be the bearer of bad news. That's not going to happen tomorrow.
Well, we've already backpedaled on that commitment with the UK government anyway by 2040. So
yeah, well, there was no way to do it. I mean, there's no way to achieve it, right? Besides destroying the planet. Is the solution to try and save the planet? Is the solution to destroy it at the same time? And of course it's not. I mean, I see some of the islands here in Indonesia. I see some of the islands, like, or some of the countries I see in the Congo. I see it in some of the islands that they're actually harvesting these metals. Again, like for our new Green New Deal. You need to see the destruction that we're actually carrying out. It's horrific, right? We're destroying our planet to do this. The exploitation in West Africa, I mean, it's horrific. I mean, it's nothing but modern day slavery, because you want to feel good about driving around your Tesla or whatever, right?
And most people can't afford anyway.
Most people can't afford, but even if they could afford, what is the social impact of that car? What is that, right? You're great to, we stick out our chest and we say, well, look, this is the environmental impact. I'm driving my car, right? What's the social impact? How did that car get to be in your possession? Exactly. What's the whole story behind it?
The thing is that the solution is public transport infrastructure. It's creating cycle lanes, it's creating better railways and trams and buses and all of those. It's not to create 8 billion electric cars, because let's be honest, we don't have the raw materials on the planet to even create that. So no one's really called that out, for starters. And I read the book Cobalt Red. It was brutal. Right. Absolutely brutal. And just, I think those conversations have to be had about suddenly going from mining coal and or to any raw materials, just like the garment manufacturing has had to do with its transparency on underage, child labour and the impact on women. It's the same in this mining sector. It is truly shocking.
But did they actually change anything? It's like making a pair of shoes. And I know very little about shoes, but I made a few containers of shoes a few years ago. Again, it was for a social project here. We made shoes and we donated them. The uppers in the shoes, of course, there was some recycled material on the uppers. And of course, the soles of the shoes were from virgin material. We donated them for the most part to old folks' homes, orphanages, and the likes. Again, I did that out of my own pocket. Didn't get any sponsorship for that. I paid for that myself. But I learned a lot about that industry, right? When we were doing that. The industry itself has so many problems, has so many problems. But there is solutions for it, but they have so many problems, right? And they don't seem to look at the solution, I think, because they're petrified of, again, the landmine we spoke about earlier on, this big landmine that they're walking through. Like, are they going to get blown up with one of these programs? But like, you prepare a pair of shoes, you make a pair of shoes, one of the big brands, not mentioning any of their names, but say the top 3 brands, right? If they make a pair of shoes, which they all make shoes here, they have shoe factories not far from me here all over the place. And if they make a pair of shoes, the shoes most of the parts of the shoes are subcontracted out, right? So if
Yeah.
you send someone, if you go along and you do a podcast, right, on that shoe being produced, you're going to go to a factory. That's the final stage of that you're going to see. You don't see the other stages down. You don't see, like, again, the poverty and that's associated with it. People earning $2 and $3 a day,
Yeah.
making that $200 pair of shoes for you. So it's a brutal industry. But again, it's is there solutions? There's solutions for everything. And of course, there's practical, again, back to practical solutions. What does it mean? By every gram of plastic, I believe, that a company is putting out there, they should pull something similar from the environment.
Yeah,
Again, and it doesn't
maths.
cost a lot. It's not going to break the bank. I mean, it's not going to do it. Instead of giving money to hundreds of millions of dollars to an NBA player because he can throw a ball into a hoop, right? Do it in a way like it's going to make a difference, right? That same money that you give to the NBA player can change the lives of 5,000 people, right? You can get 4,000 or 5,000 people, get them to a living wage, change everything. You can eliminate tens of thousands of tons of plastic from the environment. Still continue with your shoes. Still do the right thing. Get real wages for the people that's doing it, and you can make a difference. But it has to be real. It has to be a real program. It can't be something, again, that is not transparent. Because if it's not transparent, like I keep saying, if you can't prove it, it didn't happen.
I love that. No, and I think what you're basically explaining here is the reality that it's not really about climate change per se. It's about systems change, and we all know we could pay more money for those items to raise the living wage. But let's say, for example, everybody on the planet earned $15,000 per annum. The fear, I believe, is that, well, if we do that, who's going to make all our stuff? Who's going to continue to?
If you look at something, right? The country of my birth, Ireland. I've been gone out of Ireland so many years. I don't even know what nationality I am anymore. So I've lived all over the world. But Ireland's made a decision, again, that was kind of been mandated through the European Union to say harvest or to cull off 200,000 of its cattle, right, to fight climate change, and also to look at green energy, different green energies, offshore wind, and so on and so forth, to produce clean electricity. Again, green energy. So it all sounds great, right? It all sounds really, really good on paper. Till you look at what exactly they're actually doing. I'm in favor of not making so many changes, but looking at more practical sides of it where we can still achieve our goals without destroying our economy and rural communities and so on and so forth. What did Ireland do, right? Ireland went from, they shut down its peat production that they were producing electricity from. So they shut that down. So now Ireland imports hardwood chips from Brazil, right? So and Ireland is not the only country. Several European countries do. So they had the goal in the European Union to fly to Brazil to say, stop this. We'd stop deforestation because it's creating a massive problem. The same people that were on the planes flying to Brazil doing that were the same people that was paying people in Brazil to cut down the forest to get the chips to use in power stations in Ireland and other European countries. Hypocrisy, right? The very, very same people that it's European Union is going to import its over 99,000 tons of cattle from Brazil again, right? To continue the deforestation, right? And what they're doing is this is where it's really puzzling or unusual, I guess. The way that the European Union do things, they look at the carbon footprint of Brazil being a Brazilian problem. So if you produce a kilo of beef in Brazil, that's Brazil, right? Those Brazilians are producing this beef, right? This beef arrives on a supermarket shelf in London or in Dublin or Paris or wherever, right? it is still a Brazilian problem, right? But there was research done by multiple different entities, including some university in Sweden and so on and so forth. A kilo of beef being produced in Brazil, when you take everything into consideration, the carbon footprint is over 50 times higher than the carbon footprint of the beef in Europe. 50 times, right? So we're changing. So they speak about fighting climate change. So they're going to kill off rural communities, get rid of the agricultural industry because they produce beef, and beef is really bad for the environment if it happens in Ireland. When it happens in Brazil, it's okay, right? So again, there's no solution here. So if Ireland, and I crunched some numbers on this, and I spoke on an interview in Ireland there last week about this. If Ireland went zero waste for landfill, or zero trash to landfill, I should say, and if they increased the Irish herd of cattle, instead of decreasing it by 200,000, if Ireland increased it by 1.1 million animals, Ireland would become carbon neutral, and Ireland actually could sell tens of millions of euros worth of carbon credits to the European Union. At the same time, feed them. Again, surely that is a better solution than this transition they're on about doing that's going to kill jobs and really hurt the economy. If it's all about becoming carbon neutral, if it's truly about that, let's have a real conversation about it. And a real conversation, let's crunch numbers. And when you crunch numbers, what Ireland is on about doing is counterproductive.
I agree 100%. All we're doing is exporting our carbon emissions. So we can't suddenly, everyone has a go at China at the minute. And the reality is, if you look at historical carbon emissions on top of what we're still doing, the fact that we export so much and production's so yeah, look, I couldn't agree more. I think it goes back to what you were saying earlier, that actually, even with the likes of your app, if you're going to if you're going to be hypocritical and say beef's bad, but then we're going to import a load of beef, you need to be able to see and have those honest conversations that say, is this us looking like we're not doing it, but we're still doing it, but just bringing it in further? That's just stupid. It is stupid. And I think those are the conversations that we need, the likes of the environmentalists and us on podcasts and all these sorts of things, just to be honest about it, to help the corporations swim through the mud, because that's where they get tripped up, and that's where they're scared to act
100%.
or do anything. And it's not it's not fair on them. And I think I
feel sorry for the corporations. I feel sorry for them. And I speak to so many fantastic people in sustainability that have, work for massive corporations. And I really feel sorry for them. They're really trying so hard. They're trying so hard to do the right thing. And they're just terrified. I mean, they look the whole time. It's their career is finished. If you're the director of sustainability for a large corporation, and you hang your hat on some initiative with someone, and if that initiative backfires, you're screwed. I mean, that dark cloud follows you for the rest of your career. And I feel terrible for them. I feel terrible for them. Like it's about, back to what I keep saying, if you can't prove it, it didn't happen. And corporations, you need to make corporations feel secure in what they're doing. We launched a new app, yes. The app itself is groundbreaking. It is absolutely groundbreaking. But we have something better coming. We have something better. On the 30th of January, we're launching a platform that connects the app to the next parts of that. And that is it's an ESG platform, but an ESG platform that the world has never seen. We're so excited about this. I mean, we're so excited. We have a fantastic team on board that's building that out. We'll be announcing the first one actually today on LinkedIn today. So we'll be announcing him today, and over the next week we'll be announcing the team one by one. But an amazing team. And what this means is corporations can invest in the future of the planet. So by corporations spending, if they spend X, Y, or Z, if they spend $10, £10, €10, whatever it is, they will get a digital asset back in return for this. So instead of throwing their money into corrupt schemes that many of them kind of know, even in some cases, like, you know, but
Yeah.
the marketing is so good, right? As long as the marketing is good, it can offset, you know, the negative impact, right? So with this, what it would mean, like, you know, that a corporation spends £100, right? $100, €100, they spend £100 on whatever, right? That £100, say it pulls 100 kilos of plastic there from the ocean. That 100 kilos of plastic can, as well, it's going to reduce the global carbon footprint by, on 100 kilos, it'll be up to 800 kilos of CO2. That 100 kilos of plastic, we can show the breakdown of where exactly this £100 is going to, who is getting it. You know, this platform itself, we're ensuring that the collectors of these plastics, of course, we're dragging them out of poverty. We're making sure that kids are getting to school. We're stopping child marriages. We're stopping pollution. We're reducing global carbon footprint. We're doing the whole lot. And when you're finished spending money on this, right, you're after to spend that $100, we hand you back a digital asset that's worth $100 or more, right?
Yeah.
That you can stand up as the CFO, you can stand up in front of your board the following year and say, hey, this year we spent X, and by spending X, this is what we have right now, right? We will empower your corporation. We will get you to do the right thing, and you can make money doing it with us. I'm tired of looking at environmentalists pretty much extorting money from corporations and getting nothing back in return. I want to empower corporations. I want to empower Coca-Cola, Chevron, Exxon, BP. I don't care who they are. The coffee shop, the little bar on the corner, the little store on the corner selling a newspaper. It doesn't matter who they are. I want to empower all businesses that we can make a difference. Let's take the power back from the likes of the WEF. And let's pull it back from the likes of these entities that have just a negative impact on our communities. And let's pull it back in a way that we can actually empower the corporations and make a real difference. And we do it in a way, again, that it is transparent. That's the difference with ocean integrity compared to anybody else on this planet.
Amazing. Listen, I think that is probably an incredible place to end the part 2 of the conversation. And I'm definitely going to be following and keeping in touch and seeing what this next bolt on is and how it builds. I have to ask though, before I go, how is baby Kling Kling doing?
Baby Kling Kling is just sleeping. She's sleeping there now. She's getting big and bold, but she's great. I mean, she's great. She's blind as the bat, but she's doing great. You know, she loves her cuddles.
Oh, so for anyone who doesn't know, Kling Kling is just the most adorable, sadly impaired with her vision otter that Captain Kieron has been nursing to health. And just make sure you warm that milk up to the right temperature next time. Oh, listen, thank you so much for coming on. I really, really enjoyed it. There's so much to digest there. And I love what you're doing and just the honesty of it as well. And I think the importance is when you get it wrong, you learn, you move on. And I think that's great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So that's it. You've made it. The show's over. Thank you for being with us. I hope you've been able to take something away, maybe solve a problem, or just know you're not alone. Here's hoping it made you smile with a few laughs along the way. Please feel free to find me on all social media channels, and you can subscribe to my YouTube channel. Just search the Road and Morale podcast. Have an awesome day and see you next time.